The night everything changed began with a sentence so strange that it felt like the world had tilted off its axis. I remember standing in the dimly lit kitchen of a large house in Savannah, Georgia, staring at my boss, Grace Whitaker, while rain tapped softly against the tall windows. She was one of the wealthiest women in the city, owner of multiple restaurants respected by everyone, admired from a distance. Yet in that moment she stood barefoot on the cold marble floor, holding a cleaning rag in her hand like it weighed 1,000 pounds. Her voice trembled as she said something that made my heart pound in confusion and disbelief. She wanted to be treated like a maid for the night, not as an employer, not as a powerful businesswoman, just as someone ordinary. Before we go deeper into this story, take a moment to support the channel. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and the unexpected ways people change each other's lives, please like this video, share it with someone who needs a reminder that humanity still exists, comment your thoughts, and subscribe so you don't miss more stories like this. My name is Nathan Carter, and until that night, my life was painfully simple. I worked as a maintenance supervisor for Grace Whitaker's restaurant group. My days were filled with fixing leaking pipes, repairing broken refrigerators, and making sure every kitchen kept running smoothly. I was not rich, not influential, and certainly not someone who spent time inside the homes of powerful people. But a storm changed everything. A pipe burst in Grace Whitaker's historic mansion during one of the worst rainstorms Savannah had seen in years. Her assistant called me because every professional plumber in the city was already booked for emergency repairs. I drove through flooded streets expecting a quick job and a polite thank you before heading home. Instead, I walked into a house that felt strangely empty. The mansion was enormous, with tall ceilings and elegant chandeliers that glowed softly against the storm-dark sky outside. But despite its beauty, it felt lonely, too quiet, too still. As I worked on the damaged pipe under the kitchen sink, I noticed Grace sitting silently at the long dining table nearby. She wasn't dressed like the confident executive I'd seen during company meetings. Her hair was loose, her makeup was gone, and she wore a plain sweater that made her look almost ordinary. When I finished the repair, I expected to leave, but something about the way she watched the rain made me pause. Grace Whitaker was a woman known for control. Newspapers described her as fearless, brilliant, unstoppable. Yet that night her shoulders were slumped as if the weight of the world rested on them. After a long silence, she stood slowly and walked toward the kitchen counter where I had left my tools. Then came the sentence that would echo in my mind for weeks. She told me she wanted to spend the evening pretending she was a maid in her own house. Not as a joke, not as a game. She said she was tired of being treated like someone untouchable. At first I thought she had lost her mind, but when I looked into her eyes I didn't see arrogance or strange humor. I saw exhaustion. The kind that comes from carrying too much responsibility for too long. The kind that quietly eats away at a person while the world continues praising them. Grace explained that everyone in her life either worked for her, depended on her, or admired her from afar. No one spoke honestly around her anymore. Every conversation felt calculated. Every relationship felt fragile. She was surrounded by people yet felt completely alone. So that night, in the middle of a storm, she decided she wanted to experience something simple, something real. She wanted to clean her own kitchen, scrub her own floors, and be treated like a regular person. I didn't know how to respond. Part of me wanted to laugh at the absurdity of it. Another part of me felt deeply uncomfortable. After all, she was still my boss, and I was just a maintenance supervisor who fixed broken appliances. But something about the vulnerability in her voice stopped me from refusing. Instead, I stayed. What followed was one of the strangest evenings of my life. Grace began wiping counters, washing dishes that were already clean, and reorganizing cabinets that didn't need organizing. At first it looked awkward, like someone acting in a play without knowing their lines. But slowly something changed. The tension in her shoulders began to fade. She moved more naturally. She even laughed once when a plate slipped from her hands and clattered into the sink. And for the first time since I had met her, Grace Whitaker looked peaceful. As the storm continued outside, we worked side by side in silence. I dried dishes while she cleaned the stove. Occasionally our eyes met, and each time I noticed something different about her. Without the armor of wealth and authority, she looked like someone who had simply been carrying too much pressure for too long. At one point she paused near the window, staring at the rain running down the glass. Her story slowly unfolded over the next hour, not through dramatic confessions, but through quiet reflections. She spoke about growing up in a small town in Missouri where her father ran a struggling diner. She talked about long nights washing dishes as a teenager, dreaming about building something bigger. She had achieved that dream, but success had come with a cost. Friendships faded, family moved away, relationships failed because people either feared her power or tried to use it. By the time she turned 40, she realized something terrifying. She had built an empire but lost the simple connections that made life meaningful. That night wasn't about pretending to be a maid. It was about remembering who she used to be. And somewhere during those quiet hours, something unexpected happened inside me too. I stopped seeing Grace Whitaker as my boss. I started seeing her as a person who had fought hard to succeed but accidentally built walls so high that no one could climb over them. Around midnight, the storm outside began to calm. The rain softened, and the house felt warmer somehow. The kitchen was spotless, but neither of us wanted the night to end. Grace sat at the table again, looking around the clean room with a small, tired smile. For the first time all evening, there was a spark of something hopeful in her expression. She realized something important during that strange experiment. She didn't need to erase her success to feel human again. She simply needed people around her who treated her honestly. And somehow, without planning it, I had become one of those people. From that night forward, our relationship slowly changed. I was still her employee, but she began asking for my opinion during restaurant renovations. She listened when I suggested improvements for kitchen efficiency. She even invited the entire maintenance team to dinners where we sat together, instead of standing quietly in the background. The company culture changed. Managers started treating employees with more respect. Staff turnover dropped. Kitchens felt less stressful and more like teams working together. Grace Whitaker didn't become a maid, but she did rediscover humility. And I discovered something equally important. Sometimes the strongest people are the ones silently asking for someone to see them beyond their titles. Months later, on a warm spring afternoon, Grace reopened her father's old diner in Missouri under a new name. It became a small tribute to the place where her dream began. When she invited me to the opening, she introduced me to the crowd not as her maintenance supervisor, but as the man who reminded her what success was supposed to mean. Not power, not money, but connection. Before we reach the ending of this story, I want to ask you something personal. If this journey has touched your heart even a little, please take a moment to like the video, share it with someone who believes people deserve second chances, and subscribe so we can continue sharing stories that remind us of the humanity behind every title. And here is my special request before the ending. Comment below with the word kindness if you believe one small moment of understanding can change someone's life forever. Because that's exactly what happened on that rainy night in Savannah. Grace Whitaker thought she was asking to be treated like a maid, but what she was really asking for was something far more powerful. She was asking to be seen, and sometimes all it takes to change a life is the courage to look beyond someone's success and recognize the lonely heart still beating underneath it. If this story moved you, don't forget to engage with the video and share your thoughts below. Stories like this exist everywhere, quietly unfolding in the lives of ordinary people who simply needed someone to care. And maybe, just maybe, the next life-changing moment could begin with you.